Definitely breaking trail.
It's a weekend in early February. Super Bowl Sunday, to be precise. And while most of America is gathering in living rooms across the country with friends and family to watch football, Edward Butler is headed into the New Hampshire woods. Ed is a skilled woodsman. He's been going into the woods his entire life. Much of his knowledge was passed down to him by his grandmother when he was a boy.
Just saw a bobcat. Awesome. Let's go find his tracks. Bobcat track right there. He just ran right in front of me. Well, probably about 50 yards out, but not a big one, but booked it off into the woods. That was pretty cool. See a bobcat on the wild like that. You can see where he came from. Over there. And he just ran literally right across the pond.
Ed has found a campsite. But first, he needs to shoot a rabbit.
When you're out here rabbit hunting without dogs, it's a challenge to say the least. But I've had very good success by going into these very tight little areas where there's pockets, and there's tracks everywhere. I've got fresh tracks. And what they do is they get down in those little holes and they'll sit there, and if you walk like 10 paces and stop, look around, usually about the time you take that next step, the thing will shoot out from, if you don't see it first, which is very difficult to do. It'll just shoot out, and then it'll give you that half a second to get your shot. But they'll hold right there until they sense something's wrong, and they'll explode. And when they go, they go. Anybody that's hunted snowshoe hare knows what I'm talking about. But when you're out here with no dogs and it's just you and the bunny, it's very challenging and very fun. But like I say, you get into these little conifer swamps, or right along these seeping banks, or right along the edge of a pond, and it's wet and green. That's what they love. And I've got all kinds of tracks. It's just a question of connecting with a snowshoe hare. So I am going to continue on. It's about as fresh as it gets right there. These tracks are fresh. I mean, the ones right there are probably from this morning, but that's a fresh rabbit track. And it's a different size too. That one over there is bigger. This guy has been through here not that long ago. So I'll get back down into that thick stuff and see what I can kick up. I just got me a rabbit. Pretty sure I hit him good. He was running away from me. I was 20 feet from him when I finally saw him. Actually, saw his eye. My grandmother used to tell me, look for the eye, don't look for the rabbit. If you look for the rabbit, you'll never see him. Look for the eye. And I saw his eye. And as soon as I saw him, he jumped, went over a little down log, and then I hit him. I'm pretty sure I hit him. He was doing cartwheels, so gonna give it a second and see if I can see which way he went. He went this way, right? I shot over there, and these are the only fresh tracks right there. Oh, I see him. I would say that is my bunny. So, yeah, I hit him. Anyway, we're looking forward to eating some rabbit tonight. Camp set up. Not too late, but definitely getting towards the end of the day. I had to sneak in a rabbit hunt. Glad I did, because now I got some fresh meat for the fry pan. Anyway, let's get the show on the road. All right. Cool thing about this this particular sled is the lashing on it. You unlash it, load your sled, get your tarp ready, and then lash it all up. It works really slick. And I prefer a tarp. They make what they call those bags, or tanks, I'm sorry. It's called a tank or something like that, and it's designed to go on the sled, put all your stuff in it and zip it up. But it becomes pretty useless once you get out here. So if you use a tarp, you have a tarp to cover your wood or a windscreen over the fire, whatever. So a tarp is much more useful, and it works just as good, I'll be honest with you. So anyway, let's get this thing out of here. Essentially, I keep my sleep system in the back, and I cinch it up with this tag that I have on the back of the sled, put it through the grommets, and it actually cinches it up nice and tight. Essentially, that's the system. Got the MSS, and I like the MSS because if for some reason I don't get to camp, can't set up my tent, the system here, 2 sleeping bags within a bivy sack. I'm not going to get too in depth with it, but I could drop right here and get inside this thing, and I'd be safe for the night. Might not be the most comfortable night, but I would survive. Preferably don't go into them wet if you can help it, but that's why I like this system. Plus I don't have to rely on the wood stove all night to keep me from freezing to death. My Wanigan, wood stove, that's the tent. Got some extra wool here. Somebody was thinking. You never have enough wool on the trail. All right. I think all total, my whole outfit here is just under 100 pounds, which isn't bad. And that's with a gallon of water. I shoveled this off earlier, so it should fit the tent. Now, about the tent. This is a tent that was designed by Calvin Rutstrom. He was an outdoor writer from the 50s and 60s and 70s, but if you follow my Instagram, you'll notice I'm pretty obsessed with his writing, so I've been reading his books as fast as I can get them. But he designed this tent, and I'll get a little bit more into it. But this is a sod cloth that was made by Alderstream Canvas out of Dover Foxcroft, Maine, and it makes a nice ground sheet. Not that heavy and very functional. I like to have that because this tent doesn't have a floor, so we'll save that for later. Now, the door on this tent is an A-shaped tent. Door on one end, closed on the other. My wind comes in from the west. Tonight it's supposed to be west-southwest. That's that direction, so I want my door and my smokestack on this side, so it pushes the smoke away from me. This is a predominantly western wind anyway, but so the door's going on that side. That means the stove's going on that side. And I'll get a little more into the stove in a minute. But basically all the components are inside there, the pipes, the elbows, everything I need to get it out of the tent. So I got this off a guy that used to guide up in Lancaster, and what a great guy, and wealth of knowledge. I talked to him for a little bit, as much as I could without bugging him, and I hope I didn't bug him. He's a very interesting character. This tent is kind of revolutionized. This is made of Egyptian canvas. This thing weighs 10 pounds, which is 2 pounds less than a gallon of water. I mean, I'm sorry, 2 pounds more than a gallon of water, if that gives you some reference. But a winter tent that you can put in a wood stove in that comes in at 10 pounds is pretty exceptional. Just a great design. Anyway, again, basically you tie out the ridge to this tent, then you can stake out the bottom corners, or you can put poles going up like this to catch the ridge, which I like to do because that makes it more rigid. And I've got some little saplings, some little poles that I've cut that'll work slick. Essentially, right here, reach up as high as I can. This tent's actually pretty high, so what I do is I get up as high as I possibly can, as tight as I can. Eventually you just make a wrap right about where you think you want it. In this case, I'm guessing it's probably about here. Not a big deal. Everybody's seen this done. A couple of wraps around loosely so you can adjust it. That's key too. Make sure you're able to slide it up and down, but just tie that off. Nothing fancy. And that gives you a nice little A-frame like that, so you come over to your tent. Once you get your front, your two ends set up, then you can do your side pullouts. Unfortunately, I've got a couple of trees right here, so I can pull those sides out and give me more room inside. Plus, it gives it obviously more stability against wind and so forth. But bear in mind, when you tie these out, you're going to be walking around at night doing whatever you got to do, and it's real easy to trip over them. So kind of bear that in mind when you're putting your tie outs out. Try to make it as user-friendly as possible, if that's possible. Once you get your sides and everything staked out the way you want it, so your door's going to shut nicely, and you can throw in your sod cloth. Now we got the inside. We're going to get the stove hooked up. I don't have to tell you to be careful when you're burning wood inside a tent. Try to get, most tents are made of semi-non-flammable equipment, whatever, but I don't know, it's not a tent safety video, but anywho, this has a nice little, place you cut it out, and then when you actually put your stove in the summertime, if you didn't have the wood stove, you could just flop it over. If not, you get a nice red on the ground. So obviously you don't want a wood stove sitting on canvas or this other canvas-like material. So once that's done, the stove, everything goes inside. I got a new cap and a new elbow. Always more pipe than you actually need, but here's my starter. My damper. I like to run a damper in a wood stove, and inside here on the floor you've got these little plates. Keep pulls off the bottom of the stove. It's nice. The damper's right here. This stove was made up in Ontario, I think, somewhere in Canada. But essentially, put your starter piece in, and your elbow on top of that. And the idea is, you know, you want it to slope up, so then I take my damper. And luckily they give you enough pipe to get it away from the tent, which is nice. Once we're done, we're going to have our you know, brace outside to hold it up, but this is just going to get us out the door. So this will go on and then finish it off outside. Rule is, if you can't get it in the Wanigan, you don't need it. Another little tip: whenever you're doing this type of camping, whether it's in a canoe or whether it's, you know, pulling things on a toboggan, things have to function, or you don't take them. And multifunctional is nice. Like the tent bag, okay. It's an old waterproof dry bag, nothing fancy, but it works really good for gathering tinder. So I'm going to go out and grab a bunch of kindling and tinder and fill this right up full, and that'll be my kindling and, you know, small stuff. So it works pretty slick. You know, you're not making 100 trips. Can't emphasize enough about burning dead wood, dry wood. If you're fortunate enough to have a place to go, as I am, and they let you camp or whatever, just use whatever. Don't be cutting trees down. Use the dead stuff. There's usually more than enough on the ground for what you need. And like in the Northeast, we're lucky because we have a lot of, you know, eastern pine and a lot of standing dead oak and stuff that burns really good. It's, you know, toppled down or whatever, but I can look around right now and see enough wood for the night, really within 50 yards of my campsite. There's no point, there's no need to cut trees down. You know, that's just unnecessary. This stuff burns really good. Pretty hard to beat a twig bundle and a Bic lighter when you want to start a fire. Good old twig bundle. Like you say, you gotta love a twig bundle. Wow. That took off. Now you gotta keep it going. Cannot express the need to stay hydrated, so I'm going to get some water boiling on the stove and go out and start collecting some snow and melt snow and then boil that, so I'll have extra water. Get rid of some fiber. Adding to that as we go. That'll melt nicely. Got to also bear in mind, since I'm cutting up a rabbit, I'm going to want to you know, keep clean, wash my hands. Hygiene's an issue, so plenty of hot water is always a good thing around winter camp. It's heating up nicely too. Stove's working very nice. Never-ending job. Firewood and water. Oh, so let me get this rabbit taken care of. Save those back legs for my buddy Rick. He likes to tie flies. He's very good at it, might add. Oh, there's an old trick from Grandma. Shower curtain hook. Actually, hook it right through the back leg of the rabbit. Clip that to your belt loop, and that's how you carry your rabbit out of the woods. Another trick from Grandma. She taught me everything I know. Essentially, we bring it back, break that off there. A little more knives. There you go, Rick. There's one. And two. There you go, buddy. Tie some flies with that sucker. Nice headshot, by the way. So, ball joint. Gabars. Little coyotes are going to be eating good tonight. Well, not as good as if had they caught this rabbit. But sever the head. These rabbits, you always want to check the liver, the white spots. They call tularemia. As you can see, it's a nice dark, clean liver. No white spots on it. This rabbit's okay. Not that I'm worried about it, but just something you always want to check depending on your area. Save that right there. We get a heart up there somewhere too. Just split your pelvis back here. Everything comes right out the back, so you don't have to worry about sanitation. Everything will pop right out. You can wash it off. Make sure you don't lose your knife. So then once that's done, we're gonna take our back quarters like that. Pop the ball joint. Like that. And there's one. A nice clean snow. That's the other one. Nice back leg. Do the same with the front. Bring it up here, under there. Get under that front leg. One front leg. Looks like somebody slaughtered a rabbit, for God's sake. Like that. Now, the coup de grace, the back straps. Generally what I do is I cut right down the ribs. Like that. Like that. Take off that right at the top of the ribs. There's your back straps. Snap it right there. You gotta be careful, you don't want to waste your meat, but you've got definite if you want to split hairs, there's some meat there, but not much. That's basically your back straps. Yeah. Cut that down, pull them out, and then that's 90% of the rabbit you're ever going to eat right there. Yeah, there we go. That's it. I'm going to clean this bad boy up, put it in the pan. Good old jute twine. Get you out of a jam every time. Okay, now the firewood's cut and the fire's burning, the snow's melting. Gonna brew up some tea, and then I'm gonna cook up that nice snowshoe hare we shot a little earlier today. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to some tea. But sorry about the headlamp. But if I do that, well, maybe that's better. But anyway, friend Molly and Max gave us. And well, this is the actual tea they gave us. We've since, it's Upton Tea Company, and they make really good tea. Got my little tea baller. This is an old Abercrombie and Fitch kettle. I absolutely love it. Back when Abercrombie and Fitch used to actually make stuff for the outdoorsmen, it used to be a great company, actually. Get this rabbit going in some coconut oil and onions and garlic. We'll throw in some rabbit meat. That's the back leg, and that's my nice cup of tea there on the side. But butchering it up and going to throw it in the fry pan with some onions and garlic that I've already cooked up in the cast iron pan. So let's get going on this. And I'm basically butchering up the rabbit. That's just one of the back legs, as you can see the bottom of it on there. Well, let's see. Got some rice cooking now. Oh yeah, it's coming along nicely. I'm going to take some of this good rice that I just made in the old Abercrombie and dish it out. The old snowshoe hare with garlic and onions. Oh yeah, that's going to go good with that stuff. Back straps. Oh yeah, good stuff. All right, that's what it's all about right there. Oh my god. Oh, and the backstrap. A little finger food. That right there is probably that is one of the best known secrets in the Northeast. Rabbit backstraps. Absolutely delicious. All it took was some onions. Well, you gotta shoot one first, but some onions, garlic, a little bit of time in the cast iron pan. There's not getting any better than this. Awesome. I'm going to stuff my face, so talk to you guys later. I mean, I know people romanticize about living like this all the time, and yeah, you know, you could. You know, the prospectors used to do it, the trappers used to do it. At the end of the day, you still need supplies. You need a trading post. You need a means of conveyance. You need something to, you know, these, you know, gloves, you know, sweaters wear out. Gloves get holes in them. Boots wear out. You run out of ammunition. You run out of fuel. You run out of salt. You run out of flour. Whatever it is, you need to keep replenishing yourself. But there's nothing wrong with, you know, taking advantage of being able to do this. You know, you can go out and live this lifestyle at your convenience, I guess. And it's just a great way to spend time. You know, you're out here, and the longer you're out here, the more, the easier it gets. You know, you gather wood faster. You know, you've got right now. I mean, I've got everything everywhere. It's a cluster. But after a few days, 2 or 3 days out here, you know, you get your stove in the right place. You get this, you get that, and you get organized, and it becomes part of your, you know, part of your everyday life. So it it becomes routine. Now, having said that, it's interesting because um, I'm in the middle of reading. I'm on my third Calvin Rutstrom book, and he's the one that designed this tent, by the way. And right now I'm reading Paradise Below Zero, which they're all great books. But in his writing, he talks about how the Eskimos, Inuits, indigenous people, when the cold comes and the snow comes and the lakes freeze over, they look at it as opportunity. They look at it as a chance to get out and get that overland travel, by dog sled, by walking 300 miles down a river or whatever it is. And so to them, the cold and the snow is rejuvenating. You take, in this day and age, most, metropolitan people, suburban people, most people in general, it's like, oh my God, the snowstorm's coming. Oh, it's going to be 20 below. It's going to be this. Everything is dreaded. The cold is dreaded. The snow is dreaded because it's a lot of work. I get to get up and shovel my driveway before I go to work, or come home and do it then. Shovel the roof off, stack the wood, clean the snow off the wood. It's a lot of work, but it's because we've intertwined ourselves so deep in the system that we gotta it's whether it's there's always something we have to do because of our obligations. Now, I run a heating company. Do you think that's, that doesn't leave me a lot of time, especially this time of year? I'd love to be out ice fishing. I'd love to be making more videos. I'd love to be writing. I'd love to be doing all that stuff. But the reality is that business is 100% of your life. And, when I get a very small window, I have to jump on it. And it's not always the easiest thing when you've spent you're out till 11 o'clock at night fixing somebody's boiler. You're going to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and go drill holes, at 7 degrees and go ice fishing. That's a tough call. And I got to be honest with you, I'd be lying if I said that I would jump out of bed and go ice fishing. There's a lot of times I don't. But, this with this warm weather, we had the cold, a little bit of cold last week, but we had the, coyote. Yeah, I got a coyote out in the back. Anyway, out in the background. Anyway, so and what's good is, particularly now, I came out here to go rabbit hunting. When the temperatures go from those freezing temperatures day after day after day, and all of a sudden it warms up to 40, 50 degrees, sun comes out, all the animals start moving around again. They come out of their holes, they come out and they go looking for food, especially with snowshoe hare, because the snowshoe hare, it can't go anywhere in a foot of powder. It needs that snow to compress and compact so they can cover ground, because if they go out, when there's a foot of powder on the ground, they're going to get taken down by a predator because they can't get out of it. They can't move. But when the temperatures warm up and all the snow starts to harden up and they can travel. Same with squirrels. Same with the deer. Were moving big time for the last couple of days. That's what gets the animals moving again. So I just lucky I had a window that I was prime rabbit hunting, and come out here and set up my tent and spent a day hunting. Got saw a bobcat on my way out here, which was pretty cool. Unfortunately, I had the camera going the wrong way. If he'd have come out within maybe 2 minutes later, I probably would have got him on film, which would have been really cool. But anyway, I saw the bobcat. So there's a multitude of reasons to come out here. Just leave everything behind. Set up your tent, stoke the wood stove, make some tea, go shoot a rabbit, go shoot a squirrel, shoot an elk, whatever it is you do. Come out here and boil water and make pasta. Anything you do. You're out of the house. You're out here in the wilderness. There's nothing wrong with that. That's why we get out here. I'm glad to have had the opportunity. I hate like heck to break camp, but I have to. I got to get back to work. I've got people screaming, but hey, it's the nature of the business. Just glad to have snuck in these few days. Good morning. Anybody that knows me very well knows that it's not a good idea. First of all, I'm not a morning person. Second of all, don't talk to me before my coffee's ready. However, a little pressed for time, so going to just wrap it up. Had a great meal last night with that snowshoe hare. Absolutely delicious. And I didn't get a chance to. The lighting was so horrible. I wasn't able to really do much video on it, but essentially all I did was I quartered it up, as you saw, and then I just cut the meat off the bone, cut it into small pieces, except for the back straps, which I left whole, and fried it up with some garlic and onions and a little coconut oil. Absolutely delicious, with some nice good batch of rice. Pull old Bessie out of the way. Unloaded as always, but I didn't get a chance to really talk about my sleep system, what I do for a sleep system, and I'd just like to cover it really quick. It's not in depth, obviously, because it's not a sleeping bag review, but I use the MSS. Essentially, it's a bivy sack, a military sleep system, which is a modular system. You can ask anybody that's served over, that's been deployed about them. I've never been in the service and certainly wasn't deployed, so I only know from my experience, but I've spent a lot of time in bivy sacks and sleeping bags in the wintertime, so I know I'm pretty familiar with sleeping outside in the cold. With the big, I think it's the intermediate bags, what they call it. That's the real warm section, the warmer of the two bags. The green is the patrol bag, which is good for the summer use and stuff, warmer temperatures. This here is my Thermarest, Neo Air X Therm. It goes in here, I crawl right in there, zip myself up, and what I do is I take the bag that this thing comes, compresses in, the compression sack, and actually I stuff my wool shirt in it, or whatever I have left over, which isn't wet. This is all drying out now. That's the other thing about this tent, it's got a nice clothesline up top. I fill up the stuff sack with extra clothing, wool, jackets, whatever, and that's my system. Now, you might say, okay, why do you have such an extreme bag when you're sleeping in a hot tent? First off, I don't advise, when you're in a hot tent, running the stove all night if there's no one up to watch it. You're playing with fire, bad pun, I know, but essentially, so what I do is I'll run the wood stove while I'm doing my chores, washing dishes, whatever, drying out my clothes, and then, when I go to bed, it's 100 degrees in here, so literally, like last night, I lay on top of the bag, fall asleep. Well, you wake up, a couple hours later, cold, and then, by morning, you're literally laying on a sheet of ice. So, over the course of the night, this tent cools down to the, basically to whatever it is outside, a little bit warmer, but you need that extra warmth. So that's why I like this system. And as I said, it's also a good emergency system. If you can't get your camp set up, you just drop this thing, get inside it, and try not to go in wet. But if you do, you do. Just a great system. I love it. So I'm gonna. Coffee's about ready, so I'm gonna enjoy my coffee, and unfortunately, have to break down camp. But everything's pretty dried out. That's the other thing with this wood stove. You fire this thing up, all the condensation, whatever, it's dry in 20 minutes. It's amazing. That's camp coffee right there. I love my old Abercrombie and Fitch vintage camping equipment, but it doesn't pour like the new ones, and sometimes you make a mess, so I try to pour my liquids outside, let it drip on the ground, which is fine. Give the local wildlife a little caffeine boost when they come around sniffing. And I'm gonna enjoy my coffee. Nothing like it.
It's time to leave the woods.